The Galactic Empire had long considered humanity a mere nuisance in the galaxy, a species too primitive to be of any real consequence. They were nothing more than a distant curiosity, confined to their own corner of the universe, fighting among themselves over scraps of territory. Yet, in the vast, unfeeling expanse of the cosmos, one human had come to disturb the peace of the Empire. Jack Hawk Matthews? Jack's legend began long before the Empire decided to send their assassins after him. He wasn't part of the political or military establishment. He was an outcast, a mercenary with no allegiance to anyone but himself. He'd been a sniper for most of his life, a role that demanded silence, patience, and a mind capable of calculating the impossible. He was a predator, and the galaxy was full of prey. His first encounter with the Empire's forces came during a border skirmish between two minor factions, one human, one alien. The conflict was small, insignificant, something that would have gone unnoticed if it weren't for the mercenaries hired by both sides. Jack was hired by the human faction to tip the scales in their favor. He wasn't there to fight in the trenches or hold ground. His job was simple. He was to pick off the enemy's commanders, one by one, and cripple their strategy. The first alien general didn't know what hit him. Jack had positioned himself miles away from the battlefield, hidden in the desolate remains of an abandoned city, and with one clean shot, took out the alien leader. A few hours later, he eliminated another, then a third. The alien faction's morale shattered as their leadership crumbled. The human faction emerged victorious, but Jack's reputation spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Empire took notice when Jack took out a whole team of Void Blades, the elite assassins of the Empire, who had been sent to silence a rogue admiral. It was a small operation, something insignificant on the surface, but it was enough to trigger the Empire's interest. The Void Blades were the galaxy's deadliest killers, genetically engineered from the most lethal alien species the Empire could find. They were faster than any human, stronger than any soldier, and smarter than any tactician. But Jack Matthews had made a mockery of them. He had killed every single one with pinpoint accuracy, his strategy and intellect outmatching their superior technology. That's when the Empire decided it had enough of this backwater human. They couldn't afford to let him continue disrupting their operations. A team of Void Blades was dispatched, their mission clear: eliminate the human sniper. The Empire's leaders saw Jack Matthews as little more than a glitch in the system, an anomaly that needed to be corrected. They expected the Void Blades to handle it with ease. After all, they were supposed to be perfect. Faster than light, genetically perfected, armed with weapons that could pierce any armor, and equipped with cloaking devices that could render them invisible to any conventional means of detection. To them, Jack was just another target, a challenge they were certain they could overcome without difficulty. The assassins were prepared for anything. Their mission was simple: track Jack, eliminate him, and report back. They were given the best resources the Empire had to offer: advanced tracking systems, hyperspace ships, and sophisticated weaponry. They thought little of the human sniper. They would find him easily, hunt him down like a dog, and end the problem once and for all. They landed on the barren world that Jack had chosen as his hunting ground. It was a desolate planet, its surface scarred by endless wars. Jack had set up shop here, using the ruins as a base of operations. The Empire's operatives were methodical, scouring the planet with a precision only they could manage, closing in on their target. But as they moved in, something wasn't right. The Void Blades had a system, a protocol they followed to ensure success. But Jack had been watching them long before they arrived. He knew their tactics, their weaknesses, and their strengths. Each assassin was trained in the art of stealth, of infiltration. They were supposed to be undetectable. But Jack was always 2 steps ahead. He understood their methods better than they understood their own. The assassins moved forward, their cloaks rendering them nearly invisible, their movements silent as they approached Jack's hideout. They had underestimated the human once more. They had no idea what they were walking into. On the surface, Jack appeared to be a mere mercenary, no more dangerous than the countless others who roamed the outer colonies. But the reality was far different. He was not just a sniper, he was a tactician, a master of the game. He saw every move his enemies would make before they made it, calculated their next steps with terrifying accuracy. The Void Blades weren't prepared for this. They believed their technology and superior abilities would guarantee their success. They had never faced an opponent like Jack Matthews. The first assassin fell without a sound. A high-pitched shriek echoed in the distance as Jack's bullet tore through the assassin's throat, cutting short the life of the alien in an instant. The others hesitated, confused by the sudden loss of their teammate. They were skilled, but they were also predictable. Jack had already mapped out their tactics in his mind, anticipating their every move. He'd been studying them, preparing. They didn't stand a chance. Jack was ready for them. The terrain was his ally, the ruins his domain. With the first strike, the remaining Void Blades scattered, moving with the precision they'd been trained for. But Jack was already gone. They never saw him again until it was too late. The human sniper wasn't just a threat to the Empire. He was a symbol of humanity's potential. In a galaxy full of technologically superior alien species, the idea that a single human could take on the Empire's deadliest agents, successfully, and without mercy, was more than just an embarrassment. It was an existential crisis. The Empire now understood the true danger. Jack Matthews wasn't just an outlier. He was a precursor to a species capable of far more than they had ever imagined. The mission had failed, but the Empire's response was swift. It was time for a reckoning. They would send more. They would not fail again. Jack Matthews would be eradicated, no matter the cost. Jack Matthews had no interest in fame or glory. His reputation had grown out of necessity, not ego. A lone mercenary, he was the shadow in the corner of every galactic conflict, known only by the names of those he had killed. He wasn't a hero, nor was he a villain. He was a tool, a weapon for hire. He didn't care who the enemy was, as long as the money was right. But something changed after his encounter with the Void Blades. The Void Blades were the Empire's most elite assassins, hand-picked and genetically engineered for one purpose: to kill. Their bodies had been enhanced, their minds altered to be the perfect instruments of death. Each one was a specialist. Some moved faster than the eye could follow, others could phase through walls, and still others manipulated gravity or telekinetic energy. They were trained to find their target, close the distance, and eliminate it. No one could escape them. That was, until Jack Matthews entered the picture. When the Void Blades were sent to deal with a minor insurgent group on a distant colony, they never expected to encounter the one man who could turn the tables. Jack was hired by the insurgents, a group of civilians caught between galactic powers, fighting for survival. Jack never took the job seriously, until the Void Blades arrived. He watched them land, cloaked in the night, as if the galaxy itself had sent them to silence him. But Jack had no intention of running. He never ran. He had spent years in war-torn colonies, hunted by enemies far worse than the Void Blades. He knew how to survive. He knew how to adapt. The battle that ensued wasn't just one of skill or firepower. It was a contest of intelligence, a game of cat and mouse that would push both sides to their limits. The Void Blades underestimated him, assuming that a lone human couldn't possibly be a threat. They were wrong. Jack had studied them before they even arrived. He knew their tactics, their strengths, and their weaknesses. The first assassin fell when Jack tricked him into activating his cloaking device in the wrong environment, causing him to crash into a series of electromagnetic disruptors. The second assassin, known for his super speed, ran into a trap set with a net of plasma wires, frying his circuits before he could react. The third, a telekinetic, never saw Jack's sniper shot coming. It wasn't just luck, it was preparation. Jack had studied every assassin that the Empire had sent after him. He had studied the Voidblade's combat data, their recorded encounters, and their weaknesses. He learned to anticipate their movements, to turn their advantages into liabilities. He was no longer just a sniper. He was a predator, and the Void Blades were his prey. In the aftermath, the Empire was enraged. Losing their finest assassins to a single human, one they considered nothing more than a nuisance, was an embarrassment they couldn't ignore. But the defeat wasn't just about the lost operatives. It was a blow to their pride. To them, it was unthinkable that a human could outsmart, outmaneuver, and ultimately destroy their most advanced warriors. The Empire's response was swift. They dispatched an even more deadly team, a group that had never failed in their mission. The Razorhawks. A team so lethal, so specialized, that even the Void Blades were wary of them. They had been built for the express purpose of taking out rogue elements in the galaxy, war criminals, insurgents, and anyone who dared defy the Empire's rule. But they didn't know Jack. They didn't understand the one thing that made him so dangerous: his ability to adapt. While the Razorhawks were formidable, they lacked one key element: their arrogance. They saw themselves as invincible, gods among mortals. They didn't understand how a human, with his primitive technology and basic understanding of combat, could be so much of a threat. But arrogance has a way of blindsiding even the most powerful. Jack had no interest in their superiority. He didn't need to prove anything to them. He didn't care about the galactic balance of power. He wasn't a patriot. He was just a man trying to survive, trying to make a living in a galaxy that had no place for him. When the Razorhawks arrived, Jack was ready, not because he was invincible, but because he understood one thing: in war, the first one to make a mistake loses. And so, Jack Matthews, the human sniper, continued to walk the fine line between life and death, a ghost in the galaxy, always a step ahead, always ready for the next fight. The Empire had underestimated him before, and now they would pay the price. The Empire had underestimated Jack Matthews, and now it was too late. They had sent their best assassins, killers honed by centuries of training, armed with the most advanced technology the galaxy could offer. But Jack had proven that no weapon, no matter how sophisticated, could outsmart a mind that had been shaped by war. The Void Blades had come to eliminate him, but instead they had been lured into a trap they couldn't fathom. Their arrogance became their downfall. Jack was no rookie. He knew the rules of engagement better than anyone. He understood that the battlefield wasn't just about superior firepower or advanced tech. It was about understanding your enemy, exploiting their weaknesses, and making sure they never knew they were walking into a death trap until it was too late. And the Void Blades had walked straight into his. One by one, Jack had picked them off with a precision that defied their every expectation. The assassin with super speed was taken out before she could blink. The one with cloaking tech had no idea that Jack had already set up a network of motion sensors calibrated to her frequency. And the telekinetic? Jack had turned his environment against her, manipulating the terrain in ways she couldn't control. The Empire had been quick to act after losing the first group of assassins. They sent more, each one more powerful, more skilled, and more desperate to take Jack down. But every time they sent a new wave of Void Blades, they only found themselves up against a man who had become a ghost, a phantom sniper who always knew where they were before they could make a move. Jack didn't need the high-tech gadgets or genetically modified enhancements. He didn't need the superior training of the Void Blades. He just needed his rifle, his instincts, and his knowledge of how to stay one step ahead. As the number of dead Void Blades mounted, the Empire grew desperate. They pulled every string, threw every resource at the problem, but Jack's position remained secure. He had learned long ago that survival wasn't about brute force. It was about knowing when to strike, when to retreat, and when to vanish completely. Jack never stayed in one place for long, never made the same mistake twice. The Void Blades, on the other hand, had grown predictable. They relied too much on their technology, too much on their training, and too little on the one thing that mattered most: adaptability. Jack had adapted to survive. At this point, the Empire wasn't just angry. They were terrified. A human, one single human, had decimated their elite assassins, embarrassed their best operatives, and proved that their vast technological superiority meant nothing in the face of true strategy. The loss was more than just a military failure. It was an insult to the Empire's pride. And as any empire knows, there is nothing more dangerous than an empire with its pride wounded. But Jack wasn't interested in pride, or revenge, or the Empire's games. He was a mercenary, and his job was simple: kill when necessary, survive at all costs. If that meant dismantling the Empire's elite assassins one by one, so be it. The Void Blades had underestimated him once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. Jack didn't stay long enough for them to try again. He was always moving, always calculating his next move. When he left one planet, it was as if he had never been there at all. The Empire's operatives began to realize that Jack was a ghost, a sniper whose very name was enough to make entire sectors tremble. The more they hunted him, the more elusive he became. And every time they thought they had him, he would disappear into the shadows, leaving nothing behind but a trail of dead assassins and a shattered sense of invincibility. In the end, the Void Blades weren't just victims of Jack's precision, they were symbols. Symbols of the Empire's hubris, its belief that no one, especially a human, could ever stand against it. And Jack Matthews, the mercenary sniper who had once been just another forgotten soldier, had become a legend, a living proof that no empire, no matter how vast or technologically advanced, could ever truly control the galaxy. Not when humans like him existed. The Empire's frustration reached a boiling point. The assassination attempts on Jack Matthews had gone from being a simple mission to a full-scale embarrassment. Each failure only added to the myth surrounding his name. It became clear that sending more Void Blades would not solve the problem. It would only reinforce the growing legend of the human sniper who had humiliated their finest operatives. They needed a new strategy. They needed to break Jack's resolve, to break him psychologically, because no amount of firepower or elite assassins could break a man who had already been through hell. The new plan came from the Empire's high command. They would send a trap, one designed to bait Jack out into the open. They would use the one thing that no assassin could ever predict: his own humanity. The Empire didn't just want Jack dead, they wanted to make him suffer first, to destroy what little was left of his soul. They would use hostages, innocent civilians from one of the countless colonies Jack had protected in his mercenary days. They would dangle them like meat in front of a starving predator, hoping to lure Jack into a mistake. But the Empire made one fatal error: they miscalculated Jack's attachment to those people. He had worked for them, fought for them, but he had never allowed himself to form any real emotional ties. To Jack, every mission was just another job. The lives of the civilians he had helped over the years didn't matter in the same way they might matter to someone else. The Empire thought they understood human nature, they thought they knew how to exploit it. But they didn't understand Jack Matthews. When Jack discovered the trap, it didn't anger him. It didn't rattle him. He wasn't some noble hero coming to save the day. He was a predator, and predators didn't make mistakes. They didn't rush into traps. They studied the situation, figured out the angle, and then they executed their plan with brutal efficiency. And that's exactly what Jack did. He didn't charge in to rescue the hostages, he waited. He watched. He analyzed the situation from 1,000 different angles. He tracked every movement of the Empire's operatives, every shift in the environment. He had all the time in the world. The Empire, on the other hand, did not. Jack waited for the perfect moment, the one split second when the Empire would be at their most vulnerable. He watched the Empire's agents grow overconfident, their eyes fixed on the hostages they thought they had locked away. What they didn't know was that the hostages were never really the bait, they were the distraction. The real target had always been them. When Jack made his move, the Empire's operatives didn't even know what hit them. It wasn't a firefight, it was an execution. The Empire's agents were taken out with surgical precision, one by one, never even realizing where the shots came from. In minutes, the trap they had set for Jack was turned against them. The hostages? They were safe, untouched, and none the wiser. Jack didn't need to make a show of his success. His silence, his complete control of the situation, was more than enough. The Empire's humiliation was total. They had sent their most deadly assassins to eliminate a single human sniper, only to have their entire plan unravel in the most catastrophic way imaginable. Jack had made a mockery of them. And as they prepared for yet another round of retaliation, they couldn't help but feel the crushing weight of their mistake. They had underestimated Jack Matthews from the beginning, and now it was too late to fix that. The sniper was no longer just a name, they had created a monster. But Jack didn't care about the Empire's shame. He wasn't interested in their downfall or their fragile reputation. He had no love for the Empire, but he had no need to fight their war. He had done what he did because it suited him, because it was his job. And now, as the galaxy continued to spin on, Jack Matthews would disappear once more into the shadows, waiting for the next target, the next mission. The Empire would move on, but they would never forget the human sniper who had made them look foolish. And Jack would continue to do what he did best, be the predator no one could outrun.